welcome you to this special edition of Night Shift. I'm Eric Lopez alongside Bryson Turner. Coming up, we're going to preview the 2024 UCF softball season. We're going to hear from some of the Knight players. Might hear a little bit from Coach Ball Malone as well. We'll give you some keys to the season and what to look forward to on this historic season for the Knights, their 23rd season, but their first as a member of the Big 12. Of course, you can follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com for all the latest in UCF athletics. We'll have a coverage of UCF softball all year round. You can check out the preview article right there, everything you get to know about the Knights. Check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can see all of the interviews from Media Day with UCF softball, as well as we'll have a lot of the post-game videos from softball this year on the channel, as well as like we've had the last few years. And, of course, you can follow us on all of the social media. Of course, Bryson's been covering UCF softball. This will be your third season, full season, covering UCF softball. Am I right, Bryson? Where do you give me your thing you're looking forward to the most this season to follow?
Well, I like to think I consider myself as almost like this is my third year being your assistant covering softball because because softball, like, let's remember that you are we're talking to the premier college softball bracketologist here. Congratulations, by the way, on your new gig with D1 softball, doing bracketology with them. But I'm extremely excited to see what this team is now, Team 23, is going to accomplish. It is I would argue that in some ways this is almost an extension of Team 22 because a lot of similar faces from Team 22 are returning for that one. If anything, this is Team 22 2.0. If you want to think about you have some add-ons and new additions to this team that basically take what made Team 22 successful and then essentially supercharge it for Big 12 competition.
Yeah, they, of course, won 40 games last season. Third straight year UCF has won 40 games or more. The first time ever in the history of the program they've done that. They finished the American off in the perfect scenario, winning the conference tournament in Tampa at the USF's field on a walk-off against Tulsa, one run rule victory over Tulsa. That was good. You and I and Nick were there to cover that. That was a lot of fun. But now they begin year one in the Big 12, and they begin the season this weekend at home. They'll host the Big East regular season champions, UConn. They'll play Howard, play Georgia State and Seattle. But there's high expectations. You mentioned it. They returned a ton of talent from last year's team. Pretty much every starter except one, really. But yet they've added 7 freshmen, which was rated the 16th best freshman class in the country, according to X Rating Softball. And they added 3 transfers from what D1 Softball ranked as the 14th best transfer class. So this team is stacked. They're deep. They're talented. And with that comes a lot of high expectations and big goals inside with this program. And it's going to be interesting to see how they go. And couple of the players that certainly have been the faces of the program for their last 4 years, really, plus years, is Jada Cody and Shannon Doherty, who are in their 5th-year seniors. They were here in 2020. Here's a stat for you. UCF under head coach Cindy Ball Malone have won 185 games since she's got here in 2019. 151 of those wins have been with Jada Cody or Shannon Doherty on the team. That tells you how significant those two are. And Bryson and I had a chance to catch up with Jada Cody and Shannon Doherty at UCF Softball Media Day. And here is the conversation that we had with these two legendary players, Cody and Doherty.
All right, last ride for both of you. I want to ask you both, as you walked on campus here, fall of 19? Do you remember the first time you met?
I think we met, but actually I do remember the first time I did it. It was actually in California at a camp that Coach Bear put together out there for, because she recruits a lot out there. So I was out there for PGF. Jada was out there because she lives out there, and Coach Bear put a little camp together for some of the recruits, and that's where we met.
What do you remember about your first encounters, and then obviously coming in the fall as a freshman?
I just knew what Coach Bear was doing for this program, and I knew that she was recruiting the best, and I was excited to play with Shannon and like the whole recruiting class that was coming in 2019. And I'm just glad that me and Shannon are still here together.
You two are going to be basically linked because you're part of the same class. You've been so much history of this program. There's jerseys of you, and you both have jerseys every time there's stands. What's it been like to kind of transcend the program and help promote the program the way you both have? Starting with you, Shannon.
Honestly, it's been a blessing. It's been everything I could ever dream of and more. I never would have thought, as a little kid, I would be in the position that I'm in today to really get to be a part of history every single day. I talked about it a little bit last night. I mean, there's truly nothing that's more motivating than that, to just be a part of something that's just propelling into greatness. And I feel like that's what we've been able to be a part of. And I just feel so blessed. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for Coach Bear. I'm so grateful for this program. So grateful to have this opportunity to get an education. And I can't wait to finish strong this year.
I don't think we could have done it without Coach Bear and just the program as a whole. Just to see where the program was and where it's going in like the right direction. I think it's a great thing just leaving the program better than we found it, and coming back in the next few years and just to see how the program just continues to grow. But I think it's just a dream come true. Like, I was one of the little girls in the stands cheering for my favorite players. So just to see that and just the atmosphere grow here each year, our fan base gets more and more. Like, they really like stay with us and are connected with us. So I think that just to see the growth in that is really a big thing for UCF softball as a whole.
Obviously, when you were both freshmen, you had the veterans took you under your wings. Jasmine Esparza for you, Shannon at first base. Who took you under your wing, Jada, when you were a freshman?
I had Kia and Aaliyah White, and then the year after, Gianna.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So now you're in that role. Tell me about some of the new faces, the freshmen, and who do you see as that player that could be, it's kind of in that boat where you were as a freshman, you think could have big promise for this program moving forward?
So I actually room with two freshmen, Alexis and Issa, and my goal this year was really just to put them under my wing and kind of just lead them, and really just show them the ropes before I leave, and it's been a blessing. I've gotten really close with both of them, and Issa being a pitcher, I've allowed me to just help her with her confidence and just really developing her, because she has a lot to offer for this team, and this program's in good hands with her. And then with Alexis, just literally just going balls to the wall, and she's shy, but allowing her to get out of her shell, and I see her true self when she's in the room, and so just really allowing her just to grow in that aspect of you don't have to be shy everywhere you go. Everyone, it's your confidence goes a long way. So being able just to lead those two, and then I have Ava in my room too. So just two pitchers and an outfielder. So just to have them in my room, I think it was a great connection, and I love my room.
I think that all the freshmen have come in super hungry and wanting to learn, super focused, and honestly, they've really impressed me. And I think that the thing that impresses me the most about that class is just their level of softball IQ is through the roof. They're pushing people like me and Jada, and it's awesome, and that's exactly what we need to reach our goals. Honestly, I think all of them, I connect with all of them just in different ways. I connect with CC and Ray because they're in the infield, and we spend a lot of time together on defense. But Issa, I talk to all the time. Alexis, Taylor, I talk to all of them all the time. Samantha Del Hoya. It's hard for me to pick one. I would say I spend the most time with CC and Ray in the infield, but I think I connect with all of them in different ways, and it's been so cool to be able to just help them grow and help them propel this program so that they can be in the same shoes as me and Jada one day.
You both have, obviously, Becca Mueller down as your hitting coach, and you got Jen as your defensive coach. Describe that. What's it like being with both of them?
I love it. It's a lot of softball IQ there. Just having both of them, giving different perspective on their journey in softball, I think it's just a big thing for us, and just the love that they have for the game. Coach Jen's in love with defense. Defense wins championship. That's her literally all she says. And Coach Becca coming in her first year, and I just see the growth that the hitting program has done on this side, and I'm just excited to see what this program has to offer this year. We are very talented, and I will say, going to Super Regionals 2 years ago, this team is way talented than that year. And I'm just excited to see what this team has.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Jada said, softball IQ is through the roof. I mean, we have some of the most elite minds in the game in that building right there, and I think it's going to propel us to places that we've never been before. And working with Coach Becca this year has been awesome. She, like I said, just has such an elite mind. She can see things that I'm like, how did you even catch that? Like, that was crazy. And then Coach Jen is just a mastermind on defense, and she's so detail oriented that it causes us to be detail oriented, and I think that's something that really is going to take our defensive game up to the next level. So I'm honored and blessed to be playing for them and learning from them, and I feel like my game has grown tremendously.
To be a part of a historic year, you'll be the first part of the first UCF team to play in the Big 12. When I say the Big 12, what comes to your mind? Big 12 is arguably one of the most elite conferences in college softball at this time, so it's super cool. It's super exciting. We're being put on a stage that we deserve to be on, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people would argue and say the same thing. And I'm so excited to have the platform that we're going to have, and have the competition that we're going to have. I think we're going to have some awesome games out here on the Plex, and I'm so excited to be able to bring that to Knight Nation, and for Knight Nation to be able to experience that with us, and for us to be able to go out on this note and with this platform and with all these opportunities, it's so awesome, and I can't wait.
I think the Big 12 is just the best of the best. Especially for softball, I think it's one of the best conferences for softball, and it's shown over the years. But I think it's like the right position for UCF softball, and I think the program's heading in the right direction in this conference. And we have a lot to offer for this conference, so I'm excited just to see what we have to offer for this program in this conference.
Tell me what you admire about your teammate, Jada. What do you admire about Shannon? And Shannon, what do you admire about Jada? One thing that you admire and you're like, man, I wish I could do what she could do.
I think her just pouring into the program, and it's not just about her. Like, it's about what the program needs, and I think that's just the biggest thing, and her dedication. Like, if you come to the softball field, you will see Shannon in the batting cages. If you ever need to see Shannon, like, she's in the batting cages. So I just think that just the dedication, the hard work, from her freshman year to now, and like, she's grown a lot, and it's just a blessing to see that, to see how much work she's put in, and to see that her goals and her accomplishments are coming to reality. And I think that's just a big thing. Just like her really just trusting herself is a big thing.
Thanks, man. I really admire Jada's competitiveness. First of all, I think she, every time we enter squad and I'm not on the same team as Jada, which I'm not often, I'm always like, all right, let me back up a few steps here. And that's just not because of her ability, but it's like her demeanor on the field is just competitive. It's scary. It's, I'm going to win this battle right here. And I think it's so awesome the way she carries herself out there. And I think that's contagious to the group. And I think it elevates us as a team. And I also really admire her faith, just in the Lord and the reasons that she plays. And she shows that so unconditionally. And I think it's so awesome to be able to let other people see that and let other people see the work that God's doing in her.
My last question to both of you. You both currently have been involved on the roster, 151 wins while you're here. By the end of the year, you'll be the 2 winningest players in the history of this program. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to say about each of you 5-10 years from now when you come for an alumni event, when they say Jada Cody and Shannon Doherty? What do you want them to say?
None of the accomplishments that I achieved, all the accomplishment that the team has achieved, and that we just left the program better than we found it. I think that's just the biggest thing, that we led the program in the right direction. And just to come back to see what this facility and the stadium has looked like in like the next 5 years. So I think that's what I want to be remembered and seen as. I just left the program better than where I found it.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. The wins and losses on the field are great, and I feel so blessed to be one of the most winningest players and all these things. But at the end of the day, I think I just really want to be remembered for the way I treated people out here, and the way I led out here, and the way I carried myself and my demeanor, and I just want the girls to remember me as someone that they could come to at all times, and just a great person, a great leader, and like Jada said, someone that left this place better than they found it, someone that loved this place through and through it. And I would do anything for the Knights, so I hope that's what people remember about me.
Shannon, back when I first met you, you were getting an extra year to learn under Jasmine Williams because of that extra COVID year. Now you are in that very same position. What is it like for you to now be in the same position Jasmine was in? And now what's it like to look at these freshmen and be like, if history had gone a little differently, I would have never met these people?
Yeah, honestly, it gives me the chills to kind of think about it, because I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than where I am today. And I think it's been so awesome to be able to kind of mentor some of these girls into being great. And like you said, I had someone that did that for me, and I don't think I would be in the position I am today without those years learning under the belts of those seniors in that class. I think that the 2019 team, those seniors really set the tone, and they're the cornerstones of our culture, and they don't get enough credit. So I hope that I can do the same thing for these girls and really put them in a position where they can take this place and grow it even further than we have.
Jada, with so many different utility players and returning players, how is this team dangerous in the flexibility that you guys can pull off on?
I think it's really cool because if you're hitting, Coach Bear's gonna find you in the lineup, and like we have so many utility. Like I could be throwing an outfield, like CC could be throwing an outfield. So just being like having that depth and that versatility is really big because we have a lot of big hitters. So allowing Coach Bear to be able to like work with the lineup and move us around, I think that's just going to be a big thing with this team this year and moving forward.
With so many returning faces, returning starters from last year, how is this a different team than from last year for both of you?
I think it's a way different team, to be honest with you. I think that we have really gotten an unbelievable amount of time to learn each other and to learn to trust each other and to learn what each other needs. And I think that that's going to be a huge advantage for us because not a lot of teams get to return most of their starting lineup, like you just said. And, we spent most of the summer together. We spent this entire fall together. We've had a lot of team building and learning moments and growth together, and we've been through a lot together. And I think that those moments that you have and you're just kind of grinding through something together as a group and as a unit, and you're leaning on each other, those are the moments that are going to propel you through the 11-inning games and help you pull out a win.
Jada, what about you?
I think it's exciting because a few years ago we were a young team and now we have a lot of vets on the team. So just allowing that to play a role in like playoffs and like we've already been there, it's nothing new to like half the team. I think it's going to go a long way, just especially in the Big 12. Like we have a lot of like vets coming back and we've already played a lot of Big 12. So just having that is definitely going to be a big thing for this year.
What's it going to take for this team to make a return trip to Oklahoma City in the NCAAs?
I think it's going to take, us outlasting ourselves. I think that if we continue to play against our best selves and we continue to play for each other and for the right reasons and for our culture, and we continue to lean into our team roles and to lean into each other and we don't get distracted, it's going to be no problem. But those are the things that we're really going to need to do, and those are some of the toughest things to do. So I think it's really going to be a test of can we continue to compete against our best selves even when that's the toughest thing to do in the moment.
I think just not letting all like the outside like information, all that like dictate how we play and just playing our best selves. I think that's just a big thing. Like we have a lot of talent and I think we just have to use that at the best of our ability and really just rely on everyone through the lineup 1 through 27. Like everyone can play a part and every role is important. I think that's just a big thing of if you're not starting one game, then like you're all like against the fence cheering your teammate on. I think that's just going to be the big thing. It's just rallying together and sticking together, win or loss. I think that's just going to be a big thing for us.
That was Jada Cody and Shannon Doherty talking to me and Bryson. And Bryson, you have done 2 features. You've done a feature on each of them during your time here at Black and Gold Banneret. You did a feature on Shannon Doherty back in 2022, as well as Jada Cody. So you have a unique perspective. You've covered these two, and their incredible, legendary careers, and they're looking to finish off on a high note and finish their story on this legendary run that they've had.
Yes, indeed. We have talked about kind of this golden age of UCF women's athletics that kind of started when McKenna. I like to think it started when McKenna Melville first arrived, and Jada Cody and Shannon Doherty are like right in the middle of all of that. I would argue we're on the back end of it now, but I also think that these two, I feel like, are the centerpieces to the success of UCF softball's part in this golden age of UCF women's athletics. I mean, looking at the stat sheet, both Jada and Shannon are 3rd and 4th all time in home runs, 2nd and 6th all time in career RBIs, 3rd and 3rd all time in career runs for Jada. Jada also has the 3rd highest batting average in program history at 328, only a percentage point below Denali Schoppacher. So the point here is, and they're all over the place. Point being is that this is now the opportunity for Jada and Shannon to cement their legacies at UCF softball. And considering last season, I feel like last season they became their success and their ubiquity for UCF softball almost played to their own detriment in a way, because people were able to get used to them, and were able to get used to them, and now they were able to find other ways to compete. Shannon, of course, did a very great job of getting on base basically any way possible. She's still hitting great amount of RBIs, same as Jada, but their batting averages took a little bit of a dip compared to 2021. So no, 2022. So coming in to this one, it'll be a great opportunity for them to rebound from that, but also to really cement themselves as one of the greatest offensive duos in UCF softball history. I mean, I feel like there isn't any duo period in UCF softball history that stacks up to them aside from the Hall of Famers, Shake and Bake.
Talking about Mackenzie Otis, Shelby Turner in the circle, both Hall of Famers pitchers pitched together there, part of the 2014-2015 UCF teams that won conference championships. Stephanie Best, Janae Shinhoster back in the inaugural 02 to 05 was a great 1-2 punch. They're actually kind of similar to this in that, Best was the iconic player, and kind of like Jada Cody has been the iconic player, an All-American, played on the U.S. national team. Where Shinhoster has kind of played the Doherty role, that kind of intangible type of player that seems to come up big in big moments. And so it's kind of cool. They have really helped raise the bar on this program with their tremendous respective careers, but they're not done. They got another year.
It's amazing. What's the full circle moment with all of this, because I remember when I first met Shannon Doherty, it was with a story that I was doing in the fall of 2020. I was writing for NSM Today at the time, as an undergrad journalism student, and I was doing a story on the extra COVID year. And so when I was looking for UCF athletes that this affected, the biggest one that I saw was Jasmine Esparza, who got to stay another year, but that meant another year that Shannon Doherty got to learn under her. And now we find that this year, Shannon Doherty will now get to be in the Jasmine's position and get a chance to mentor the next first baseman that comes along, whoever that might be.
No doubt about it. Again, tremendous careers, should be credited, but they're not have to do it alone. This is a deep team. And of course, they're part of the infield. Doherty's been at first base for a long time. Jada Cody has been at third base, has also slipped in a little bit at catcher. Let's talk a little bit more about the infield, and of course, up the middle at shortstop with another senior. By the way, Cody Doherty, and our next interview you're going to hear, Jasmine Williams. Those are 3 of the 11 seniors on this Knights team. That's a program record. Of course, Jasmine Williams has been a great story that's been well documented. As a mom, last year transferred to UCF, had a great season. defensively and offensively, but she's looking for more. Me and Bryson had a chance to catch up with Jasmine Williams at UCF Softball Media Day about this upcoming season and a young Knights player that she's already grooming to be the heir apparent to her at short next year.
All right, Jazz, tell me how you feel this year at this point compared to last year when you were still kind of figuring things out and getting to know players.
This year, I feel like at this point, I'm way more comfortable. Like, everyone has relationships with everyone. We kind of know, even with the freshmen, what their strengths are and just how everyone plays together. And I feel like our chemistry this year is so great. And we really bring out the best in each other every day at practice. Everyone wants to get better. Everybody wants to compete. And it's just such a great environment that I just love being here at UCF. It really is my home, and I'm so glad that I found it.
Look, hey Jasmine, how kind of expanding on that, how have you been going into this season now? Because obviously, you know, does it ever get easier every year? You're both a college student and a mother as well. Does it get easier with every year?
Yeah, I definitely would say every year it kind of gets a little bit easier because my son is growing. So especially this year, he's almost 3. So like now he's a little bit more independent. He kind of understands softball more. He loves coming to the games, and just now he could talk and cheer, and so everybody loves seeing his face out there. And my husband really helps out a lot. Like, there's so much less pressure on me that when I go to softball, I can really just focus on softball, and then when I'm at home, that's when I'm mom and wife. And so we have such a great balance, and I feel like every year it's just been like a learning experience from the previous year. And so we just have a really great system, and I'm really sad that it's my last year, but I'm really happy that I got to end my playing career at UCF because I feel like it's gotten the best out of me, and I wouldn't have wanted to spend my last few years anywhere else.
What's it like learning from being coached by one of the greatest defensive infielders of all time in Jen Salling, a 2-time Olympian and national champion? What has that been like?
Oh, it's been amazing. I love Jen. We connect on such a great level, especially because she is a middle infielder that I get to just pick her brain, and she sends me videos all the time. We just talk about fielding, and I mean, she has already helped me evolve into such a better, fielder in just our short time together, that this year I'm so confident in my fielding, and we have a lot of high expectations for our defense this year. And every day at practice, like Coach Bear was saying, there's like ESPN plays, highlight reels that could literally make the top 10 every day. And that goes with Coach Jen and what she's teaching us and how she cares so much about our craft and her craft. And so I think she's just developed a great defense, and we take so much pride in our defense because we believe that defense wins championships.
So many starters returning this year. What is it like for you now coming into this year with so many? What's that bond like now that it's 1 year stronger?
I think it's amazing because we're so familiar with each other, and it is going to be hard to break the lineup because there are so many talented girls on this team, and when you have us all together, it's going to be hard to beat us. And it's really nice to have a sense of familiarity with each other, and just with the lineup, who's going to be out on the field, how we know what their arm strength is like, what our pitchers need from us in that moment. Like, we since we already have a year under our belt and basically everyone returned, it's like so much easier knowing how to get the best out of someone, and knowing that, if someone's not having the best day, what you need to do to get them back on their feet, gain their confidence back, and so that we can win that game or win the day or whatever it is that we need.
Talk about Aubrey. Obviously, she's played some short and second base. You've got Samantha Ray, young freshman. Just describe some of the other infielders on this team and what has stood out to you.
Yeah, our infield is so talented. I love playing next to Aubrey. We have such a great connection up the middle, and we're so just familiar with each other, and our range, what we can get to. We push each other so much at practice every single day. She's so talented. And I know next year when I'm gone, she's gonna make that shortstop position proud. I can't wait to watch her. I already told her I'm gonna come back and watch. and cheer them on. And, Ray Ray, she's so talented. She is a great addition to the infield. There are some plays that she makes at practice, and we're just like, wow, like she is going to hold it down for us. Like next year, it's going to be so fun watching them up the middle. And, my job as a senior is to just push them and give them my knowledge that I've learned over the years and to help them out in any way that they need help. And so I just want to leave the program better than I found it, especially in the infield, because I love defense. And so I know that they're gonna make me proud.
So you've embraced the kind of that role model, well, kind of like, groom in a way. Aubrey, do you kind of give her some hints like, hey, look for this, look for that, as playing as a middle infielder there to kind of be a mentor?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anytime she has a question or something, she'll pick my brain, or even sometimes I'll ask her like, hey, do you need me to do this better, that better? I mean, we just have such a good bond and connection up the middle that it's like we know what each other needs. And even if someone makes a bad throw or someone throws the ball in the dirt or something like that, we do whatever we can to make the other person look good. So it's like it's never their fault, it's what we can do to make them better.
With so many returning faces from last year's team coming back this year, how is this team different from last year?
I think this team is different from last year because we just get along so well. Our chemistry, I don't think anything could come in between this team. We are so great with one another, and we push each other to like our limits, but we know how to talk to each other in a way where it never comes out of a place of like anger or anything like that, or maliciousness. It's because we care about each other so much that we want to push each other to our limits, get the best out of one another. And this time last year, I feel like we weren't as prepared or ready going into the season, especially because there were a lot of new faces at the time. But this year, since we already have so many returning players and that we have the confidence from last season and we're so eager to start playing, I feel like that first game is really going to set the tone of what you guys are going to see the rest of the season.
All right, that was Jasmine Williams talking to both me and Bryson there from Media Day. Your takeaway from Jazz?
Jasmine as a player, it's really interesting because we always think about, Jada and Shannon are a duo. I feel like Sarah Willis and Chloe Evans are almost like a duo as well, because they were both transfers coming into last year, and last year. But Jasmine Williams, it's funny, even though she was in the same transfer class as Sarah and Chloe, it almost feels like that she is a player all her own. Like she doesn't need another player. When you think of Jasmine, you don't really think of anybody else specifically. Jasmine is an icon all into herself at shortstop. She's a defensive dynamo, putting together one of the best defensive seasons at softball ever and in UCF history. And now she's back for another go around, another year wiser, and this will be the last year for her to play. I mean, for her to play. The fact that she came back after giving birth to her son, I think really speaks to how much she loves this game, that she still wants to do it while still being a mother. So I'm sure that she is going to savor every moment of it, just like how I still remember watching her celebrate in Tampa with baby Z and her husband after the American Athletic Conference Championship. That is one of my favorite, I think, sports moments I have personally bore witness to right there, to see them celebrate together like they did. So she's back for another go around. I'm sure it'll be for another defensive season. But I think the biggest thing about her is that she is just a complete icon all on her own. And I'm excited to see what she'll be up to.
She wants to win a Gold Glove. That's a goal of hers. Obviously, she's mentored right now by Jen Salling, who's running the defense, a two-time Olympian, an assistant coach at UCF, a national champion, was regarded as one of the greatest shortstops in college softball and international softball history. So that's a pretty good person to learn from. And you heard her in the interview, Bryson, talk about grooming Aubrey Evans, who eventually will likely possibly be the takeover at short next year. The question now in the infield, second base, Aubrey played a lot at second base. That's probably where she's going to start most of the time here. But, remember they lost Michaela Macario last year, who transferred to San Diego State to be closer to home in the city of San Diego. So second base is really the only position of interest of as far as, hey, who did they lose that played a lot in that position was Macario. I expect Aubrey Evans to play a lot at second base. A couple other names to keep in mind at second, Stormy Kotsolnik, transfer out of Louisiana, can play second base, can play the outfield, can play a little first base too. I would expect her bat to be somewhere at times this year. She has a good bat. And then Samantha Ray, a freshman, second baseman. And Justin, this is a name you know very well. Very similar to Justine Molina. For those that followed the teams from 2020 to 2022, Justine Molina was a silky smooth second baseman. If you looked at Samantha Ray from afar away, you would think she's Justine Molina 2.0, which is what some of the veterans call her, actually, is Molina 2.0. So those are three names to watch at second. I think you might also see Aubrey play some at short if to give Jazz a day off because of this depth. You got to take advantage. And I think you might see, for example, Jada Cody get a game or two off at third base. And if you do that, don't be surprised if you see a freshman, Sierra Humphrey, who I think is going to be a stud, part of that great freshman class. So there's some interesting pieces. The other interesting position is the catcher position. Ashley Griffin returns after missing all of last year with an injury. She got hurt in the fall of 22, missed all of last year. She's back. That's huge. I think she'll add a bat in that production offensively. I spoke to her recently. Feels she's back to 100% now. So she's good to go. Carson Fryer, who had to pick up the slack last year, did a great job from a defensive standpoint. I'm interested to see how the catching situation will play out. For example, I could see, does Carson continue to catch Sarah Willis? Remember, they were the combo that threw the perfect game against Houston last year, the 7-inning perfect game. And, the reason I bring that up is I could see Carson catch Sarah because Sarah could hit for herself, or maybe Carson catches a Sona Hallahan, one of the other transfer pitchers that we'll talk about later from California, who's also a big bat. So you have Carson Fryer there, and then you got a freshman in Kylie Strapp coming in, who her dad, Bryson, is a local country music radio station host on the afternoon drive. I won't mention the station, but you can Google that. So you'll hear a lot of country music at the left field lounge. I have a feeling, Bryson.
Yeah, she comes from Lake Brantley High School. I've been over there a few times when I was following my high school's baseball team, and it's nice to have another local on the team. She joins Aubrey Evans of Apopka as kind of the two Central Floridians on this roster. So while I'm sure Aubrey is going to get a lot of love, like hometown hero love, I think Kylie Stratt is definitely going to be like the heir apparent. I could even see, if Stratt ends up getting playing time, whether it's playing time at all in the future of this program, that she could they could end up being a hometown hero duo together, her and Aubrey.
She'll see. We'll see if Cody catches. She can certainly catch. She's a very good catcher. She was a first-team all-unanimous catcher last year in the Americans. So they are much more stacked at catcher at this time now than they were a year ago, where there was a lot more questions on the catching position there. Another position they're stacked is the outfield. All three starting outfielders return, including right fielder Chloe Evans, who had a historic first year as a Knight coming over from Minnesota, put up one of the best offensive seasons that any Knights outfielder has ever had in program history. Bryson and I had a chance to catch up with Chloe Evans at Media Day to talk about what she learned from last year that she's applying to this year and her thoughts on this year's Knights team, as well as her big sports fandom for the other UCF sports teams. Here's Chloe Evans.
All right, Chloe, your final year here. Just tell me how you feel this year compared to last year when you were still kind of learning things and learning the school now in your second year.
Yeah, I think last year I just had a lot of nerves. I think, the year before, my sophomore year, had a pretty successful year. So I think, just coming in and having people see, what I could do, I just wanted to be able to, duplicate that or even be able to do better. So I think I had a lot more nerves and just not knowing what people might think or, feel about a transfer coming in and just, kind of taking over, right field, trying to do my best. But I feel this year I'm more ready and I'm locked in. I think a lot more of, the UCF fan base knows who I am. And I think it's just there's a lot more confidence and, inspiration amongst all of the UCF fan base and just within the team we have a lot more confidence, and I think that helps me to be able to be the best player that I am. And I think I'm ready for my senior year. I'm ready to get it going.
You had your RBI explosion last year when Jada had hers. She ended up having people started learning her a little more. So what do you think you need to do in order to kind of avoid a similar thing for your opponents to start learning you after last season?
Yeah, I just think, continuing to just be kind of the free player that I am, just going up to bat, swinging hard, trying to move the runners, just doing my job, at the plate. I think that I can't let anything that happened last year or the year before get in my way or, think about that at any point in time. I think, just being the confident player I've always been. I think I've always just gone up to bat knowing that I need to do my job and move the runners, be as successful as I can, disturb the defense, just, laying down a bunt, hitting home runs, just getting base hits. That's really what I'm going for this year, just continuing to do the best that I can.
Describe this senior class. It's the largest senior class in the history of the program. It's as decorated as it gets. Describe this senior class of 11.
Yeah, I love every one of them to death. I think that me and all 10 of the other ones, we all have something special, and we can all bring something very good to this team. Obviously, we all have a lot of success, and we all have a lot of, experience. So it's really good that we're able to give that to the younger classmen, hopefully help them out when they get their opportunities. Being able to, just be the best that we can be for every other person here. Keep making records, keep being the most decorated class, get more things for this year, making it to the World Series, leaving it better than we found it. So,
with such a big senior class and other major returning faces like Aubrey and Carson, Savannah, all them, what makes this a different team from last year?
I just think we have a chip on our shoulder, and I don't want to say that just because, it's our last year, but just the fact that This is all of our last years. This is our first year in the Big 12. We have something to prove. Nobody's expecting us to come out here and just be a dominant team, but I think that we just have to go out there and give all of our opponents our best every single day, whether it's the freshmen that end up starting, every single girl that gets an opportunity needs to make their impact, and whether that's a senior or not, I think just being able to pick each other up, have everyone's back, it's going to be the best for us.
Your roommate, Sarah Willis, of course, had a great year last year. What have you seen from her this fall and expect from her in her final year as a senior?
Yeah, she's obviously perfecting her craft. She's continuing to work hard every single day. She's working hard in the weight room. She's doing all the conditioning. She's got all the things she needs going. She's listening to what she needs to do, with all the fun, technology that we've been able to be blessed with this year. But continuing to just be a dominant pitcher. She wants to win. She wants to beat everybody. She wants to be the one that always has the ball. So I think, keeping that spark and keeping that flame in her is going to be the best for us. Keeping her fresh. Obviously, all of our 9 pitchers are going to be able to be dominant this year. Pulling people in and out, obviously, is going to be huge. And using all of our tools is really what is going to be the best for us. Just being able to show people what we've got, and we can just, ride out as many people as we can. It's going to be great.
With so many returning starters and then the transfers and talented freshmen coming in, how dangerous is this team in terms of its flexibility?
Yeah, it's dangerous. We have people who are obviously utility players but are being dominant in their second position now just because, we might have a whole bunch of infielders, a whole bunch of outfielders, but people are just being thrown around and they're giving it their best every single day in practice. I think pushing the person in front of them is the biggest thing for us, not letting anybody be comfortable with their position, but being able to never settle for what we've got. And I think just, like I said, pushing the person that's in front of you and behind you just so that we can make it exactly where we are. And, if someone goes down, we've got someone that can take their place.
describe. You've embraced being a UCF fan. You're at all the UCF sporting events. You were at part of the court storming when basketball beat Kansas. I think you were at the Oklahoma State football game for the pause. I don't know how they describe that storming, but describe that you've embraced it. You're at every sport. You've embraced being a UCF student athlete and a fan.
Yeah, I think that it's just like the love I have for UCF, and I see these athletes every single day, and I think the biggest motivation for all of us is just the fan base and the people that get to watch us. Obviously, all of these sports are, being live streamed now. It wasn't always like that, and obviously softball is, more on the map, more on TV. Getting our fans, involved is super awesome, just like today at FanFest, being able to connect with them so that when we are in the field, they know who we are, they can watch us on TV. Being able to just, cheer on my friends is honestly what I like to do, being able to see them every day and then going out to watch them succeed, watching them do all the amazing things that they can do, because, we don't always know what they can do when they're just, our friends and we see them eating lunch. Like, you don't know how great of a player they are till you get to see all the amazing things that they can do. So I think it's just big that, we support each other. We have the fan base behind our back, keep creating things that are, big, fear the fawns, things like that. You just got to keep creating things to make all these good things happen.
You're going to be coming back to sporting events, aren't you?
Yeah, I probably will. You'll see me. I won't leave.
So you're part of this senior class. Do you have an extra COVID year, or is this it?
No, this is it for me.
Okay, what kind of legacy, I know this is only, this is your second year, but what kind of legacy are you looking to leave behind in this last year?
Yeah, I just want people to remember me just as someone who was fearless and who was just like a good competitor. Obviously, I've only been here. This will be my second year, but obviously I want people to, remember my name, but also remember me for, what I did and how I was in the community, how I was to people, not just for my play, but, also, creating those memories, being kind to the little kids, being able to inspire those little girls who want to continue to play and be the best version of themselves. I feel like I've started to grow that more and just like help out those little girls, be confident and have that success at the plate, giving lessons, seeing all those little girls more often is really fun.
And thanks to Chloe Evans from Media Day there talking to us. Chloe, again, had an incredible season, top 6 slugging percentage all time in program history. I mean, she was in company with Jada Cody's year in 22 and Stephanie Bess's most of her career numbers. She put up big numbers, 7 outfield assists, the most for a UCF outfielder. She's the complete package, Bryson. I know you're excited to see her, what she could do in her sequel year here, as she calls it on social media, her finale.
Now that we're out of the American, I can now fully be mad at the fact that she was an all AAC first team last year, because she played like that. And the fact, let's not forget that Chloe had 16 doubles last year, which would have been the most single season doubles in program history, or tied for it, had it not been for Aubrey Evans, who got 18 doubles last year. The big thing that I want to see with Chloe is, because remember what happened with Jada Cody after her major her major breakout in 2022, is that other teams planned for her and pitched around her. Now, maybe with, like, again, you talk about the depth that this team has. Maybe this won't be as much of an issue as it was last year. But because Chloe was kind of that breakout offensive star from last year, I think we got to really watch to see if other pitchers will try to pitch around her or try to mitigate her impact like they tried to do with Jada last year.
Of course, Chloe Evans in right field. You'll see her most of the time there. Janisha Rowe back at center field. She's been there as their center fielders. I think 17 steals, I believe, from 100 in her career, in her college career. But she's been a stalwart since 22. Kennedy Cersei was an all-conference performer back. She could play left field, could play some center field, could play third base. You got Katie Burge, who could play left and center. It can play the outfield. I mentioned Kotsolnik can play some of the outfield. I'm really intrigued to see how this outfield plays out, and you might see some movement from players going from left field to center field in the same game. Coach Ballmuller likes to move things around, and that might be a creative way to, fit in as many bats as you can. You might see some unique lineups based on offense. You might see some lineups based on defensive replacements during the game. But the outfield is interesting there. Kocelnik is the only non-senior as far as the ones I mentioned, as far as those outfielders are concerned. Obviously, they have a couple of freshmen that can play outfield as well, part of that talented roster as well, in particular Alexis Morgan, the freshman. It's just going to be interesting, Bryson. It's going to be interesting. You have a talented class of freshmen, but you have this experienced team. It's so unique of a roster. You have 11 seniors on this roster, but you have 7 freshmen and 4 sophomores, and how they blend in and how you get playing time. It's going to be interesting how Coach Ball Malone and the staff gets playing time for everybody in the skill position. It's going to be interesting.
Well, I also think it's going to be interesting to see if Cindy Ball Malone will make use of the red shirt, because because I feel like that in order to to make sure ensure the program's success long term, some of these freshmen are going to have to redshirt. I could see maybe one or two of them really break out and be part of the main lineup and have to burn the red shirt. But I think that's something that Coach Ball Malone will really need to keep in mind going forward. But it goes to show you mentioned how much depth that this UCF softball team has. I mean, you really think about each position, and there really isn't there's only maybe 2 positions that you can argue have like one player that could start every single game of the season at that position. That's Jasmine Williams at shortstop and Shannon Doherty at first base. But yet, of course, you have other players that can step up and do that. We have Savannah Adams plays first base. You have Aubrey Evans who can move to short. So the fact that we're going, because I remember how pretty much like in years past, we'd have players that are basically start every single day at a certain position. A certain position. Like, honestly, I don't remember another UCF center fielder other than Janisha Rowe. But now, because of how much depth this team has, we could see these positions are almost nebulous. It's a versatility of this UCF softball team that I don't think this program has really ever seen, at least at this level. And this is the kind that you need in a conference like the Big 12.
That's a great point. And I don't think, I could be proven wrong. I don't think there's going to be a skill position player that starts every game. I think I could see like Shannon Doherty getting some time, games off. Like, they got the young freshman in Kittleman who can play first base. Macy Miles is really a good defensive first baseman. Could see her getting some innings. And it's a way to keep these players fresh, right? Like, I think that could be in play as well. And some of these, I could be wrong. We'll see what happens. But it shows them the depth that they have. You take advantage of it on there. Of course, when you speak depth, you speak about in the circle this year with UCF. That was a big question. A year ago at this time, we wondered who's going to be the main pitcher. Not a lot of experience, only a handful. I put 40, 50 innings of experience returned to the staff last year. Well, that's not the case this year. They have up to 8 arms on the staff they can throw, led by Sarah Willis, who's in the top 100 of the D1 softball best players in college softball. She was the American Conference Pitcher of the Year last year, winning 19 games. Bryson had a chance to catch up with Sarah on Media Day for a conversation, which I chimed in on a couple times, to Sarah about this upcoming season for Sarah Willis.
All right, Sarah, this is your senior year last year. Just tell me how you feel this year at this point versus last year at this point and how different it is.
I think last year it was just like me coming in and like trying to find my role and find what type of pitcher I was going to be. And compared to this year where I feel like I'm just like putting it all out on the line, like I'm going with I've been telling people like I have nothing to lose and only everything to gain, especially going into the Big 12. So just living my truth and just going out and playing softball.
With so many returning faces, returning starters to this team, how is this team different from last year's?
I think we have more depth this year, just like all around. So just I feel like we just have a lot more depth. Not that we didn't last year, but just like we have a lot of more like people that are gonna help out. So it's not just gonna be the like starting faces that you usually see. Like we could have freshmen starting, like just depends on the day.
You also have the new transfer with Sona coming in, a fellow two-way player like yourself. What's it been like working with her this offseason?
I mean, it's been awesome. Sona usually is in the bullpen with me. We usually have our bullpens together, so always just cracking jokes. I feel like we're pretty similar in personality, and so she's just a great person to have on and off the field. Love her to death. She's so funny, and it's nice to have somebody from another West Coast pitcher out here. So,
how is this pitching staff different than last year's?
Definitely more experience, I would say, because going into last year, none of us had been starting pitchers previously. So, me, Grace, and Caitlin Felton, all of us were not starters previously. So just getting that experience. So now having experience, and then also having Ava and Sona too, and also Issa coming in. Issa's a great add-on, and Caitlin Cochran getting some more spin under her belt is just really going to be good for us, because none of us are the same pitcher. So just super excited to see what everybody can do.
What's it like for you, because you got these Big 12 teams coming in, Texas and Oklahoma both coming here to the Plex? Just what excites you about the challenges that lie ahead?
I mean, for the most part, I feel like all throughout college, I've always played people that I've known since I was younger, and so I know a whole bunch of girls on the Oklahoma team. I've played against a few on the Texas team. So just I just love competition. I'm big. I'm oriented on just always wanting to win and always wanting to beat people, even if it's just in the littlest things, like walking the fastest. So honestly, just getting to see friends, getting to play against good competition, I'm super excited. And yeah.
With this being it for you, what kind of legacy are you looking to leave behind here at UCF?
Honestly, I feel like that's a hard question, because I've only gotten to spend 2 years here, but just honestly, my legacy is just becoming the most durable and competitive version of myself. That's all I want to do. Because obviously, all the accolades, you can get that stuff, but I just feel really having a good time and playing with my teammates, that's the best legacy I can leave, and leaving UCF better than I found it. So, yeah.
What is it going to take for this team to make a return trip to Oklahoma City for the NCAAs?
I think just doing everything that we need to do. Like I say, the three most important things in softball are pitching, defense, and clutch hitting, because you have to have pitching to want to win a game. You have to have tight defense, and it just takes a few clutch hits to win a game. You don't have to score 10 runs every game. Obviously, that's our goal this season, is to score at least scoring 10 runs every game, because our top opponent, Oklahoma, they score on an average, they score 10 runs every game. So just going off of that, but specifically having pitching that last all throughout the season is going to be important for us, and everybody staying healthy.
And thanks to Sarah there. Bryce, you got a chance to talk to her a lot one-on-one there, because I was kind of roaming around. That was I was trying to talk to other people, getting some stuff done while you get it. What's your impression on Sarah here, who I think, remember, at this time last year, she was not even built to throw 5 innings in a row. Remember, she was more of a 2-3 inning pitcher. She was kind of still in the developing stage. And building it up until obviously what we saw at the end of the second half of the year. Now she knows how to pitch. Now she knows how to throw a complete game and things like that. A complete 180 where she was a year ago.
I think it really speaks to the trust that Cindy Ball-Malone has in Sarah Willis, that that even when she goes into the transfer portal to find a new pitcher, it's not to find another pitcher to take over Sarah's position as the ace. Sarah, I think, is still the undisputed ace of this UCF softball team. Essentially, what Ball Malone did in the transfer portals is essentially bring in two more pitchers that can back her up. Because that's what you need. If there's one thing that astounded me about Sarah Willis last year, is that she was basically Gianna Mancha without Kama Woodall. If you want to really think about that, because comparing it to the regional winning team. And so but in the Big 12, you cannot do that on your own. That's just not going to fly. And so I think with Sarah, the biggest thing with her is getting a chance to work with other people. Now it's a chance for her to, share what she has learned to these new faces, whether they be transfer or freshman to do that. I was actually very interested in the relationship between her and Sona Haljian from California. They're both very similar players. I think they're both pitcher and pitcher, like two-way players, both from the West Coast. From the West Coast in California, and both came over from West Coast schools. So to see
came over from Pac-12 schools too, by the way, both from Pac-12 schools.
Both, yeah, West Coast, Pac-12. That's right. Yeah, that's right. They're not as synonymous anymore now, given the Pac-12's fate. Anyway, so the dynamic between those two, I am very interested to see, because I really feel like that we could be witnessing I think even Cindy Ball-Malone even echoed Kama Woodall a little bit when talking about Sona and Sona Ava, that type of thing, and developing these pitchers into a monster of a rotation. But there's no disputes about it that no matter what happens with these pitchers that Cindy Ball-Malone has brought in, Sarah Willis is the ace. She is the face of that pitching staff. She was an NFCA All-Region first team selection last year for a reason, and if things go well, I could see her repeating that this year.
So let's break down the staff here. Obviously, Sarah Willis, you've talked about. Grace Jewell returns, was quietly an all-region pitcher last year, threw a no-hitter against Arizona State. She's a senior. I think her best year is still this year. Caitlin Felton threw a good game in the regionals in Tallahassee, threw some good innings, has had a really good fall. It's probably the best fall she's had. I think she's still got something in her there where she might have a bigger contributions there this year for her. Coming back, you mentioned obviously Sona Haljian. She is the transfer from Cal. She was an all Pac-12 performer 2 years ago, won 18 games for Cal 2 years ago when she was healthy, hit 13 homers too. She is a big bat. And I think when she's I'm really think she's the wild card this year. I'm really interested to see how they use her as a pitcher. I'm really interested to see how they use her bat. If she gets enough at-bats, it would not surprise me, Bryson, if she led this team in home runs. That's how good I think she could be as a power hitter. And I think she's a middle-of-the-bat type of a lineup. She could be lethal with that bat.
Well, let's not forget, though, what happened with Sarah Willis last year, because when they tried to, have her pitch as often as she did and still hit very, very often, she ended up kind of suffering in both categories. It wasn't until that Ball-Malone used lessons that she learned when she was a player at Pacific and moved to more exclusively focus on pitching, just lean more into that led her to become the ace pitcher that she is becoming. So the big thing I want to look out for with Sona is she going to end up falling into a similar trap? If she does, then where are they going to lean her towards? Is it going to be her pitching, or is it going to be her hitting? But if she doesn't, she ends up excelling in both of them, then that is going to be a major boost to this UCF team.
Well, I asked Coach Ball-Malone about that. The one difference from Willis last year and Sona this year is Sona's had experience doing both. Whereas, remember, Sarah was still a young player last year at doing both. So, not saying that that's not right. I think Sona will be more as a pitcher than the bat, but I think she'll be contributing to both sides of the ball. But she's a name to watch. Again, if she's like at the level she was 2 years ago when she was an all Pac-12 performer, 18 game wins as a pitcher, 13 home runs she hit for Cal. All right. And by the way, you know who was the hitting coach at Cal when she hit? Becca Mueller, who's the new hitting coach at UCF. Just throwing that out.
That's gonna be a buzzing little transfer of the year. They're like the pieces are definitely there. It's almost like there's something in the air with that.
Let's go through some other pitchers. I mentioned some of the returners. Obviously, Angelina DeVoe is back, lefty, but she's not the only lefty on the staff now. Ava Justman, a transfer from Wisconsin, is now part of the staff. You and I got a chance to talk to her. We encourage you to check out the YouTube channel for that interview. The funny fact about her, she beat UCF in Clearwater 2 years ago. as a pitcher for Wisconsin. So they're very familiar with her from that standpoint in that regard. So she's also a part of it, as is freshman Isabella Vega, the freshman phenom, who I know that Coach Bear thinks she's the future of this program, as well as Cochran, who's now in her sophomore season. So that's the staff. Interesting to see who starts, who's got a reliever role. I think that's something that Coach Bear is obviously working on and will figure out as far as who's best used as a starter, who's best used as a reliever. Obviously, when you're playing these tournaments early in the season, it benefits to have a ton of arms. And I think that might help them be successful when they get to Clearwater and Mary Nutter in particular, week 2 and week 3 of the season, when UCF plays in the two most marquee tournaments in the sport. I think having all this depth will pay off for them that they, quite frankly, have not had. Certainly not last year. I think that's the big thing. That's the big thing for them. If they want to be successful this year, and their big goals is this pitching depth needs to deliver that what they hope they can.
Now, Eric, when you look at the top Big 12 team, the Oklahoma State, Texas, or the SEC, or the SEC, who's very deep in softball, when you look at rotations on those top softball schools, how many starting pitchers would you say that they need to have reliably in order to make it very far in the tournament?
I think minimum 2. I could see. I would not be surprised if UCF has a week, kind of a baseball weekend rotation, a Friday night starter, a Saturday starter, a Sunday starter. I've joked with Rich Wallace when I talked to him, if you need an arm, we got a few arms over here. Talk to Coach Bear. I don't think she's going to lend you any of their arms, but that's kind of the direction softball is headed. And when you're playing teams like Oklahoma, which we'll get to when we talk about the schedule in the Big 12, you're going to need plenty of arms. You got to give different looks to teams like Oklahoma's and the Texases of the world and things like that. So, I would not be surprised if you have some sort of a weekend rotation. I don't think now you can do 2. We saw in the American, Willis a lot of times would start Friday and then maybe start Sunday most times than not. I don't know if we'll see that as much in the Big 12. I maybe you could, but you also might see 3 starters start in different days, and maybe you have Willis start one game and come in as a reliever another day instead of starting both. Who knows? That's the thing that they're going to have to sort out with all these arms.
I think another factor in all this is that you mentioned Isabella Vega, who's the freshman phenom, but let's not forget, this is a very, deep pitching staff. So I mentioned the use of the use of the red shirt. And so I guess the question that kind of comes from that is do you save Vega for later and trust the depth that you have without her? Or do you utilize her, but potentially subtract another year where she could be major down the line? Same with Cochran, who's already a sophomore. So a sophomore, she's already used up a year of eligibility to this point.
So there's a couple schools of thoughts. There's the redshirtites that we brought up. The other is you want to get their feet wet, get some experience, get some innings now, because you might lean on them more next year. Remember, Willis Senior, you have Jewel Senior, Sona's a senior as well. You've got, let me see, I'm looking at the rest of the staff here. Ava Justman's a junior. And then you've got Felton, who is a junior. So those, how much do you believe in getting experience, get your feet wet, and you'll be more comfortable? And you never know when your number gets called and you might be needed. So I don't know. I think they're going to sort all that out. I don't know what their plans are. I just know they want quality innings. And if you're able to deliver a quality innings, whether you're a freshman or you're a junior, you're going to be able to do that. So we'll see. I don't know what they're going to do. I think we'll have an idea after the first couple of weeks or 3 weeks of the season how that's going to come out from that standpoint. Quick thought, from that standpoint, but we'll see. What do you got? What do you got? A follow up?
Yeah, I just have one more question about pitching. So Sarah Willis, of course, you have back in the day, before Big 12, you would have pitchers that would really dominate the innings pitch category. I mean, Sarah Willis had 152.1 innings. Grace Jewell was kind of right behind her at 122, but you look at the record book and you see even as back as Aaliyah White in 2019, she had 221.1 innings pitched. Do you feel like that with such a deep pitching staff and the need to keep players fresh, do you feel like those kinds of days of pitchers reaching innings pitched that high are behind UCF?
Some would say that's behind college softball now. That's everybody's the innings keep going down every year as far as the most innings on a staff. With it's not just UCF, it's everywhere. There was an article I was reading about Oklahoma. You realize that the Oklahoma last year, the most innings a pitcher had, which was Doherty Ball, was 150 innings. That's it. I'm telling you, softball is going the direction of baseball, going by staffs and committees. So I don't want to say definitely, because you just never know. Every year is different. But the way the sport's going, especially when you're in a conference like the Big 12, it seems like that's the direction it's going, which is starters don't throw as many innings as they did in a season like they used to back in the day, where you can just go with one arm and throughout the whole season. I think, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Technology, hitters have more advanced scouting, etc., bats and all that. I don't think you'll see a pitcher throw 300 innings anymore, put it to that way, like an Allison Kime did, who was in the UCF Athletic Hall of Fame. But I say all that, and, we were there at the American Conference Tournament, and Sarah Willis basically threw all 3 games of the tournament, except for an inning. It blew your mind away. I never forget. You were freaking out. You were freaking out.
I mean, you got, again, I mentioned how I would follow my high school's baseball team back when we mentioned Lake Brantley earlier. And so coming from this baseball world, seeing a pitcher pitch that much and straight and many games straight, for me, my brain is oh my gosh, is she going to throw her arm off? But with the way that softball is, and this is why I really love softball, I think, as a sport, is that it allows for these feats of athleticism like this that you just can't do in baseball, that makes it such a completely different sport from it. And so while I don't think that overall over the course of the season, maybe you'll see the pitching counts go down, I still think that type of thing for a pitcher to just maybe have a little stretch or something like that, almost I compare it to Jeremy Lin. It's almost like a Lin sanity type thing, where you can where this pitcher can essentially just take a team on their back and just go off for a period of maybe 4 or 5 games. Conference tournaments will probably be a prime position for that kind of thing to happen, but I think that you can even do this over a certain period in the regular season as well. I think that's probably something that we're going to go with, and I think that might be a very interesting draw for conference tournaments going forward. It makes it a very unique experience that maybe you might not be able to get in the NCAA tournament, just because there are more games in there.
All right, a couple things, because Bryson's got questions from the audience, from fans who sent some questions on social media. He's got some questions for me. We're going to do that down the stretch. We're going to break down the schedule. Coach Ball Malone did a 40-minute media availability on Media Day, which you can watch on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Thank you. I interviewed her for an hour, which you can watch and listen to on In the Circle podcast that I host on In the Circle SB on the podcast feeds there. I encourage you. We did an episode about a week ago, a UCF softball preview show, and I aired that interview with Coach Ball Malone there exclusively there. It's an hour interview. We went in depth on this roster and much more. We went into over things like, for example, the new 20-second pitch clock, which is new in college softball this year, and things like that. So we encourage you to listen to those interviews on those podcast feeds or on the YouTube channel. That's also on the In the Circle YouTube channel. The 40-minute media availability is on the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel. we encourage you that. We're not going to air it here because we've gone long as it is here. But Bryson, what was your takeaway from what Coach Bear had to say in that 40-minute media availability that maybe stood out to you?
That she is a very resolute individual, because she kept going with that press conference even when the rain started coming down during that. So that was a mad respect for doing that. But I think biggest takeaway as far as what she had to say from that press conference is that she is a very confident head coach. We've known about her confidence like beforehand, but I feel like there's almost this confidence mixed with a determination about her that it's almost like this perfect storm in a way. She recognizes the talent that she has on this team. She sees the opportunity and she just goes for it. And it's that type of thing that makes Sydney Ball Malone such an amazing coach, I think, because she combines that with also this passion in the dugout. In the dugout, it makes her one of the most amazing, interesting coaches we've seen. I mean, we put her quite high in our top 30 UCF head coaches of all time list this past summer, and has only been here. I mean, in this grand scheme of things, she hasn't been here all that long, but she's already made such a big mark. But she continues to just shoot for the stars, and I think that's the biggest thing that you can see with that 40-minute interview is that 40-minute presser is that she is shooting for the stars, and she's going to do everything in her power to get her team to Oklahoma City a second time, because they have to go to Oklahoma City now for the Big 12 tournament.
And they're hoping to make a third trip. I mean, they're going to go to Oklahoma State. I'm assuming they go to OKC to get to Oklahoma State Stillwater. So that Big 12 tournament, and then obviously they hope the World Series. That's the big goal. We've mentioned in previous regular podcasts, right, Bryce? I mentioned that Gus Malzahn, I think, is going all in this fall in football, with the additions they've had on this football roster and trying to go all in on this roster. I think Coach Ball Malone is the same way with this team this year. They're all in. Not to say they're not going to be good next year, because I think this freshman class and the returners next year, they'll be pretty good. But as far as they're not shy about it, getting to Oklahoma City is their goal. With this group, with Cody and Doherty, that's why and we'll get to the schedule, because I know there's questions about the schedule that people have and things. She wants to host. She wants to give her players the opportunity to earn the opportunity to host. She's not going to duck it by scheduling a soft schedule and try to backdoor it. Remember 2022, Bryson? I mean, people were like, whoa, you're scheduling that rough considering you just lost to Leah White and you have question marks on your pitching staff and you're kind of young. Well, by the way she scheduled helped UCF get to be a host for the first time in program history as a 16th seed. So she's very confident, likes this group. They're all in on this year. And, I'll never forget last year's presser in Tallahassee. One of their mottos is one of their goals is a successful season is have no regrets, play to your potential. She felt last year there was regret and they didn't play fully to their potential. Maybe a little harsh there, but that's her words. That's the standard she's holding them. And I think a part of that is to get everybody ready for what's coming. And what's coming is the Big 12 Conference, which is where UCF will play this year. And that's the number one conference last year, according to the RPI in college softball, believe it or not. So that's the story.
That's also, there's also the fact that there is there's actually a new motto in the UCF softball dugout this year. You mentioned, one of them is playing with no regrets, but you also, of course, Coach Ball Malone has been a very big proponent of the Protect the Queen motto as well, referencing the pitcher, but protecting the plex, of course, alliteration on the UCF softball stadium. But they have a new and mysterious new motto this year that we only know the acronym for it. Coach Ball Malone said in her press conference, it's #STW, but she has been sworn to secrecy by the team to not reveal it until they make the Women's College World Series. So nobody outside the team and probably very close people within the team know what this acronym means. So I'm actually very intrigued.
I don't even know. I have some guesses, but I don't even know. And I've been around that team for a long time, and they're keeping me out. Probably smartly so, because they know I talk for a living. So that's probably a smart move. We'll see hopefully we get that answer. That'll be a lot of fun there. All right, we got some questions from the audience. Some of our loyal listeners and followers sent you some questions, Bryson, to ask me about this team. So fire away, sir.
All right. So at Sir_FallenMerc7 asked, what is the harder series, Oklahoma at home or Oklahoma State on the road?
Oh, baby. Welcome to the Big 12. Look, normally we'd say the road series, right? With Oklahoma, playing in Stillwater, that will not be easy. UCF played there last year, which is interesting. So they have experience now playing in Stillwater, playing a second year. Oklahoma State's kind of a young team this year. There's some questions with Kenny Gajewski and company there that I have. The answer is Oklahoma. They're the 3-time defending national champions. They will enter the season on a 53-game win streak, which is the best in Division I softball history. They are going for a four-peat. They return a lot from that team. UCF will host Oklahoma senior weekend. I've been told that series is sold out. Bryson, I've heard if you want to bring some friends over and buy some tickets, the secondary market is over about $150, $200 to get into Oklahoma series, which is part of a big narrative. The season tickets are sold out for UCF. I've heard other games like some of the Texas stuff expect that to be sold out sooner than later. It's going to be another big year in attendance, which is something that you and I have followed closely with all the other UCF sports. We saw this with volleyball and the big boom in attendance. Men's basketball's had a big boom in attendance this year, and I think you're seeing that with softball. I think you're going to see that with baseball. We'll get into that next week when we do the baseball preview show. But I will say Oklahoma, man, they only lost one game last year. One game. They are the team. So we got to give them the number one team in the country their proper respect.
Where the
heck are you going to sit for Oklahoma, Bryson? I'm scared. I'm worried about you.
I know. I know. Hopefully the press box casts a good shadow somewhere that I'll be able to sit. But honestly, I feel like that the type of crowd that we could see for that game, I legitimately feel like it's going to almost be an equivalent to almost like a Woodstock, but softball, where you'll have a whole bunch of people that'll be at their cars watching it. You're gonna have people I could imagine several people deep watching from the outfield.
Oh, easily. I think it'll shatter the record. The Michigan. Remember the regionals drew big crowds, but all the games were in the afternoon because of weather. Weather pushed the Friday night game to an early Friday day. So, for example, I think that Friday night Oklahoma game is going to be nuts. Just unbelievable. Just get there early. Get there a couple hours early. And no, my seat is not for sale. At least I hope not in the broadcast booth. There. But, so Oklahoma should be a lot of fun. All right, next question.
All right, next up we have. Let's do at Scott N. Star, who asks, which of our newcomers will have potentially the biggest impact on the team this year?
I mentioned Sona. I think she could have the biggest impact. Two-way player, could be a huge wild card, especially in the circle. She was an all Pac-12 performer 2 years ago. I think that's one to watch. I think Stormy Kutsalnik could be another one with her bat as well. I'll mention those two. And I think, I think Justman, I'm really intrigued to see how Coach Paul Malone uses Justman. Is she going to be a reliever lefty? Is she going to be a starter? Is she going to be a tweener where maybe she does a little bit of both as a lefty? I think that's the thing that's got Coach Paul Malone excited is you've got a lefty type of pitcher there. And then I would keep an eye on the freshman names. I mentioned Sierra Humphrey at third base, Samantha Ray, freshman there. You mentioned Kylie Strott behind the plate. We'll see if she plays. We'll see. It's hard to say about the new faces, but I would say the transfers, which was the 14th best class according to D1 softball, might get probably the more of the impact as far as the new faces are concerned.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be Sona or Ava, depending on their performances. They both very much remind me of kind of how Kama Woodall sort of was coming into this program, and she ended up putting together one of the most legendary performances in UCF softball history, even though she was the clear number 2 behind Gianna Mancha. So I think whichever one of those 2 women get that number 2 spot behind Sarah Willis, that's going to be who the answer to that question is going to be.
Assuming they're the number 2, I would not count out Jewel or Felton yet. To me, that's going to be really fascinating as the first couple of weeks to follow. Go ahead.
No, that is very true. I don't want to count them out as well. I mean, Grace Jewell still did quite well last year as well.
There was a period of time where she was kind of the ace until Willis kind of took it to a different level. But she kind of kept them above water there when they were still searching during the middle of the season. But
yes, that I'll tell you what. Like watching UCF softball was just a roller coaster last year. I feel like this year, if last year was almost like the Velocicoaster of UCF softball seasons, this year is going to be like rock and roller coaster at Disney. It's just like you get there right at the start, you get set, and then immediately you just jet at 0 to 60 miles per hour because I feel like that some of the kinks that could potentially spell doom for a team like this normally in the Big 12, they work those kinks out, a lot of them with Team 22.
We got any more questions?
I do. So we have at Scott 88513 who asked, what do you think the team's chances are to make it to OKC? And I have to guess that this is a reference to the Women's College World Series and not Stillwater or the Big 12 championship tournament.
Probably not. They're locks to get 2 of those trips in. I will say this is the best opportunity that they've had. I think they have a better roster than 22, but they're playing a much more difficult schedule. And I think a lot's going to depend on how they get on. They're going to play in Clearwater early. That's week 2 of the season, marquee tournament at ESPN. Sunday night, February 18th, prime time against UCLA, top 10 team there. They then go to Mary Nutter, where they're going to play the likes of Tennessee and Oregon in there. Then they have South Carolina coming at home March 1st. These are all top 25 caliber teams. But then you have the Big 12 slate, which will include a home series against top 5 Texas. We've talked about number 1 Oklahoma. We've talked about Oklahoma State's a top 12 team. UCF's got to go to Waco, top 15 team in the country as well. To me, it's a top. I would be stunned if this schedule strength does not end up being like top 25 toughest schedules in the country. That being said, if UCF wins enough of those games, Bryson, they could put themselves in position to host. And when I mean host, I'm not even talking about just the 16th seed. I'm talking a better seed than that. And if they do that, they can make a run to OKC. That's the best path to get to OKC is to play at home. We saw what a difference that made in 2022 when UCF hosted and won that regional to advance versus last year when they were in Tallahassee and had to deal with the umpires being intimidated by the Tallahassee FSU fans. So I think they have that opportunity. That's what's the old cliche, Bryson, the floor and the ceiling that they always talk about now. It's become the new sports lingo. Every team has a floor and a ceiling. And the ceiling is the World Series. That's what they want to do. That's kind of where Cody and Doherty want to go. They've talked about it's about 1,300 miles away and things like that. That's what their ultimate goal. And can you imagine if they do that, Bryson? The legacy of this group would just be through the roof. I would say this. If they get to another super regional or a World Series, I would make the argument, Bryson, from an Olympic sports standpoint. I'm going to put football to a side because it gets into a whole weird conversation, apples and oranges stuff, whatever. I'm just telling you from an Olympic sports standpoint at UCF, if this team makes it to another super regional or a World Series, or let's say win the Big 12, I would make the argument that this run that softball's had going from really 2020, all right, the Cody Doherty era, let's call it that, would be the greatest era that any UCF Olympic sports team has had since the Michelle Akers UCF women's soccer teams in the 80s.
Wow.
Look at that face. Look, that's the face I wanted from Bryce. Like that? Right? Woo!
I mean, really thinking about it. Really thinking
Look
about
at your face. Your face.
That if they pull it off, you might be right, because men's basketball, I don't think even something in men's basketball could even live.
Well, they're not even considered an Olympic sport, but if you want to include men's basketball, they've won one NCAA tournament game in Division I. And let's put the Division II era aside. Let's put that.
So, but when you look at the Olympic sports, honestly, I think the only one that I would say that the only thing that could maybe match that, and this isn't even a team, by the way, it's Ariel Scott's national championship run in track and field from an individual perspective. I think that's the only thing you could really
1 year. Yeah, 1 year. Yeah.
That's just one player.
That's what I'm saying. One player athlete. Yeah. I don't even know if that qualifies.
Maybe you can argue. The only other one I can really think of is this recent run that track and field has been on with dominating the American.
Yeah, but they haven't even right. But they haven't the 2013 track team was finished 5th in the NCAA championships. Imagine if track would have followed that up with another top 10, top 20 finish in the NCAA championship. That's what we're kind of seeing here. What softball has kind of done. I'm telling you, volleyball, as much as they've had success, never got past the second round. Really, outside of as great as women's soccer historically has been, take away the Michelle Akers era, they've been past the second round. They've been past the Sweet 16 only once, which was 2011. I'm telling you, what this softball team has done, the program has done the last 4 years, it is some people have made the argument that outside of football and men's basketball, that softball is the most popular sport at UCF. That's not me. I understand. I have a conflict of interest. I'm just telling you what others have. There's some numbers that have backed it up that I can't get into, but you've seen those numbers in the metrics that are out there of the interest there. The attendance has exploded and things like that. So that's my hot take. That's the best case scenario. I will acknowledge, okay, Bryson, I got to be fair. The floor in this is, boy, the Big 12 is tough, right? And we've seen some of the UCF sports teams take some lumps. We saw volleyball kind of take a beating when they had the gauntlet towards the second half of their season. Football took a beating at the Big 12. If you want to go the opposite direction, this team could be a bubble team on Selection Sunday because of the adjustment of playing in a tougher conference with maybe a schedule that turned out they just didn't win enough games to feel, to succeed the season. I'm giving you any scenario. You tell me how the season plays out, I'll believe it. Honestly, it's one of those type of.
It's almost just like football. Football feels like the same way. Okay, and here's a question for you with the greatest run. What about the recent? What about from 2018 to 2021 with Calabrese and the men's soccer team?
That's a good one. They made a Sweet 16 and 19 and the 20 shortened season COVID. That's pretty good. That was a couple years. That's a pretty good one. But again, they didn't one of the things that's a pretty good one, but they didn't get past the Sweet 16 in both of those years. But that is a good comparison. That's probably right there in the conversation. I think that's a fair conversation. But again, that was 2 years. You look at this team, 3 straight 40-win seasons, multiple conference championships, winners of a regional, got to a super, has finished in the top 25. If they're able to do another year like that, we're going on a run here of 4 years, not multiple years, 2, 3.
Looking at the Big 12, and I looking at the schedule actually, because this schedule is very interesting, and I honestly don't know if UCF could have maybe had a better schedule considering the conference they are in, because You start Big 12 against Kansas. Then you have the Oklahoma State Texas pair up. You have 2 very tough weeks back to back, one home, one away, one home. Then you get a little bit of a relative break where you get Texas Tech, who finished who was 5-13 in the Big 12 last year. You have BYU, I think, is the wild card in all of this, because BYU was second in the West Coast Conference. Of course, former UCF Knight Maddie Bejarano is on there. She's talented as well.
Oh, by the way, yeah, I spoke, by the way, with Maddie Bejarano in depth. You can check that out on In the Circle podcast. We spoke a lot about her time at UCF, the decision to move on to BYU, and what her thoughts are about coming back to UCF. But that's a sneaky good series that I think will draw very well as well.
Really? No, yeah. I think honestly, how BYU shakes out going into that point of the season is going to dictate a little bit, because if BYU comes up flat for whatever reason, that means that you have Texas Tech, BYU, the midweeks against UNF and Jacksonville, Houston, who's a former AAC team. You have 3 straight weekends of, I would say, winnable series, maybe sweepable. Say, because again, this is on the assumption BYU comes up flat, before you then prepare to go on the road to Waco and then welcome Oklahoma. Oklahoma. So I say all this to say that the way that this schedule has shaken out, I think BYU is actually the dark horse for like the series of the season. Like Oklahoma and Texas are like 1 and 2. But BYU, right, I think is very much the number 3, because I think it could very much be a turning point to where a turning point of where, if UCF is doing well, it could go downhill, or if UCF is struggling a little bit, then that's the kick.
Listen, no, look, it's you're right. You make a good point about football, right? Football could have easily won 8, 9, 10 games. Instead, only won 6. That could be the worst case scenario for softball. We're like, man, they were 5, 6 games away from this or that. And so, but on the other hand, they could also, things go well, break right. They could host, make a deep run to try to get to OKC. So that's what makes this exciting and such a historic year. We just don't know. We got to let them play, to say the least. Was that it for the question? We got to wrap up. We're going deep.
Yeah, that was all of the questions.
Thank you for all the questions, by the way. We'll try to do that maybe during the season, where you guys can ask Bryson, ask me questions throughout the season for our podcast, or et cetera. So we will try to do that from time to time. This season might even include that on some of the nightcaps that Bryson tends to write throughout the season, maybe on baseball as well, and softball. It's a great time with the spring sports to go there. All right, let's any other things we got to do before I wrap up here, before we call it a day here, as far as any final thoughts, Bryson, or questions you got?
I do want to ask, how does it feel to now be working with D1 softball for your bracketology? Because you kind of dodged the question earlier when I gave you your flowers about the Eric.
All right, so I have a lot of hats. All right, so I have a lot of hats this year in softball. Obviously, I'll still do the stuff with Black and Gold Banneret. Obviously, this is my 18th season calling UCF softball. This is the 4th season that I'll be calling it on ESPN Plus, which has been a blast. I think a lot of positive feedback there. Want to mention storyline in the broadcast booth. Alex Powers, 2-time All-American at FSU, will be my analyst for the home games. Francesca Aneo, who, if some of you that tuned in the last few years, no longer now is in the broadcast booth. She's an assistant coach at Florida, her alma mater. So, we're big time, Bryson, in the booth when we're losing people to coaching, kind of like the other football and basketball do on a regular basis. She did it's like a Doc Rivers type of thing in the NBA for those that follow that. All the home games on ESPN Plus, by the way, exclusive home for UCF softball. Make a note of that. They'll have some linear games, as I mentioned, in Clearwater. That'll be more of a national broadcast. So I'm wearing those hats. And then you mentioned, obviously, I will be the bracketologist for D1 softball this season. That's kind of cool. That just we got to finalize. I'll also write some sports softball media articles for them, but it's kind of a blast because I started doing bracketology because of people like Kendall Rogers and Mark Etheridge, who have covered college baseball forever, and they both now work at D1 baseball, which obviously works with D1 softball, just to give you a full circle moment there. So that's kind of cool. Part of a great staff at D1 softball that I will be a part of this season. So thank you for the cheap plug there, Bryson, on that. And I have other hats as well. I'll be contributing to some Big 12 podcasts this season as a guest, talking Big 12 softball. I'll post that on the social media platform as the season goes on.
I will make this prediction. I think that this is the year that Eric Lopez. I think it's been bubbling for a little bit, but I think this is the year that Eric Lopez reaches the big time of college softball, if he wasn't already there. I do have one other question for you.
Me and UCF softball are all in, and yes, I'm still hosting In the Circle softball as well.
Yeah. Of course, can't forget that. I do have one more question for you because we talk about the Big 12 schedule with very good reason, but let's not neglect the non-conference schedule. Aside from the tournaments, which have already, you mentioned they're the top 2 college softball tournaments in the nation. Who would you say is the premier non-conference opponent for UCF softball this season?
Not counting Clearwater or Nutter?
No, because you mentioned that you gave their flowers about them being the top 2 college softball tournaments in the country. Plus, those non-conference games are mostly going to be at home.
So non-conference beyond Nutter and Clearwater. South Carolina, March 1st. Elena Vaughter transferred from Stanford, their ace pitcher. South Carolina, remember, eliminated UCF in the Tallahassee Regional. They're very good again this year. I would circle that home game. I think that's that game. And then Liberty on Valentine's night. Dot Richardson, an Olympian, an Orlando native, by the way, was from Orlando, played, I believe, in Dr. Phillips, Bryce, and you may have to look into that. She's an Olympian. She's the head coach at Liberty. Those are the 2 best non-conference home gate dates as far as the resume is concerned, probably as far as top 25 caliber teams. Opening night, by the way, Connecticut, Big East, 2-time Big East regular season champions. Is very good as well. But you told me to give you 1 or 2 answers, so I'll give you South Carolina and Liberty as the 2 best non-conference games that are not in Clearwater or Nutter.
All right. And then I would say now, so we have this very narrow window of time before where the fans will get to see UCF softball up close before they go on the road to Clearwater. Clearwater is where you're going to get your test among the national brands, like the Wisconsins, the Northwesterns, the UCLAs of the world. But what do you want to see from this UCF softball team in these first 6 games before you go to Clearwater? What's the checklist that you want to see them check off before they go to Clearwater?
Play loose. Don't play tight. Sometimes you put too much pressure on yourself. I want to see how this pitching looks. What roles do they have? And see how this offense looks, top to bottom. And because that's what I think we want to see, how those things look. Who's going to play second? Who's catching which pitcher? How does the lineup look? And then, but how does the pitching look? Who's starting? Who's relieving? Who stands out? I think those are things to watch early on in Orlando opening weekend, which, of course, I will be on the call for that. But those are some things to look for early on in the season, not just opening weekend, but I think the first few weeks. Should be fun. Are you ready? Are you excited? You ready to go?
I know this is UCF softball is one of the sports on campus where it is very easy to get hyped about this program. It's a sport where where it's the football of spring. I think UCF fans don't watch spring football; they watch softball because they watch softball. It's in such a unique position where it can take pretty much all of the spotlight from a national perspective, and the fact that it's basically taken only 23 years or 22 years. We're in the 23rd now to get to this point at all in the first place is honestly such an amazing meteoric rise. Like you talk about the story of football where we went from D3 independent to Power 5 in this to Power 5 in a few decades. Well, here we've gone from a program not even existing to the premier college softball conference of the country in just a little over 2 decades, and only 2 head coaches in order to do that. I don't know how much of it is luck or how much of it is just pure skill. Probably both, because you kind of need both to do that. But it's just amazing to me to think back at that story that Stephanie Best told me when I spoke to her a long while ago, where she and Renee Gillespie stood on the roof of the venue looking where the original softball field was going to be, and Renee asked Stephanie, "Can you picture it?" And all these years later, that stadium might not be there anymore, but the softball stadium that does exist now is now going to be hosting some of the premier, most legendary softball figures in the world that are going to be coming here to Orlando. And I have to feel like both of them would be really proud of where it's ended up. And now this is the time where not only is UCF softball able to bask in their progress, but at the same time, they're able to. They have the capability to not just bask in it and just say we're happy to be here, but they actually can have noise to make in this conference, and that's saying something.
Should be a historic year. Should be a lot of fun. It's kind of interesting. It should be a lot of fun. Hopefully it works out. Just enjoy the moment. They'll be talking about it for decades, regardless of what happens, but it should be a lot of fun. All right, that's going to do it for this season preview. We went a long time, but we got you a lot of information, and that's what we try to do here. And lots to talk about. Keep it on blackandgoldbanneret.com. I know Bryson, Nick will be out there covering the weekends there. We're going to see post-game videos. I'll be on the call on ESPN Plus. Hope you tune in. If you can't make it, you can do both. Night shifts. We'll have night shifts. We'll be breaking down basketball. They got big Big 12 games coming up. Baseball is around the corner. Bryson and Nick, we're at Media Day, UCF Baseball. We'll do a baseball preview show as well next week. But until then, for Bryson Turner, I'm Eric Lopez. Make sure you follow blackandgoldbanneret.com as well as the YouTube channel with Black and Gold Banneret for all the videos with media interviews with softball. For Bryson, I'm Eric. We hope you've enjoyed this special edition of Night Shift.